Donald Trump, his adult sons, the Trump Organization, and others go on trial in Manhattan. The civil fraud case has been brought by State Attorney General Letitia James. Trump is denying any wrongdoing and has called the case a witch hunt. For more on the story, we are joined by SABC News correspondent Kate Fisher. Kate, good evening to you and welcome. This is the first day of his fraud trial. It's a big ticket charge, but it's going to be a civil trial. Just explain to our viewers what that means.
Yeah, essentially that means that there will be no jury. There is no jury listening to Donald Trump and the prosecution in that courtroom in New York. It's a single judge presiding over this, and it will be that single judge that makes a determination about whether Donald Trump and his co-defendants are guilty of what Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, is accusing him of, and that is essentially widespread fraud. She is saying that Donald Trump, his organization, and some of his key lieutenants in his organization, as well as some of his children, essentially defrauded companies by inflating the amount of money that their property and their businesses were worth so that they could get a better deal on mortgages and loans and insurance deals.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a big sum of money. We're talking about $250 million, which seems to be the total that we're dealing with here. But Trump, as always, lots of hubris, fighting back, calling this a witch hunt. Share with us what the approach of himself and his legal team has been.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, this morning when he arrived at court, we weren't quite sure. He said he was going to come. We weren't sure if he was. He doesn't actually need to be in court today. There is no need for him to be there. He chose to arrive. And before he went in, he stopped deliberately in front of the bank of cameras and chose to speak to them. And it was almost like a campaign stump speech rather than what somebody going into a courtroom would usually talk about. Included in that was, again, his saying that he believes this is an ongoing political witch hunt and denying he has done anything wrong. But he also criticised both the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, and the judge in this case. Well, as we've just said, this judge is the man that's going to decide whether or not he is guilty and what punishment he will face. So, yeah, even so, he took this time to criticise the judge, and also because he was speaking to the cameras, it meant that he was late into court. The hearing was supposed to begin at 10 a.m. and he was a few minutes late, and we understand this will not have gone down well with the judge whose courtroom he arrived late at, because he was giving essentially a press conference, a campaign stump speech, criticising the very man who's going to decide his fate in this.
Certainly curious, given, as you say, he's the person who's going to, who essentially holds his life and the way it unfolds in his hands with his decision, but not altogether unexpected, given how Trump has behaved before ahead of his court appearances. And the judge in question is New York Supreme Court Justice Arthur Engoron. It's interesting that Arthur or the judge last week said that some of the documents that Trump had submitted to court were, persistently faulty, and also said that he was working in or living in this fantasy world, not in the real world. So the stage certainly seems set, Kate, for a very interesting, and that's a mild word, I suppose, series of court appearances.
Absolutely, you're right. This judge has already ruled last week that he believes there is evidence of widespread fraud, and because of that, he's already in the process of revoking Donald Trump and the Trump Organization's business licenses, which essentially means that it could be that Donald Trump will no longer be able to conduct business in New York state and city, and this is essentially his home. It's where he grew up, it's where he grew his empire. It would involve things like having to sell Trump Tower, his kind of iconic piece of New York real estate. So already that decision has been made, and so already it doesn't look as though the judge has much sympathy for Donald Trump's defense team. Now, in this part of the trial, they're looking at specific moments, specific incidents. Did he specifically defraud insurance companies? Did he specifically commit fraud in certain dealings that he did? But the essential decision as to whether fraud has been committed by him and his organisation has already been decided, and he will be having to face consequences just on that. As you say, this trial, Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, is arguing that he needs to pay $250 million because of what he did, and that's something that this judge is going to have to decide upon.
So it is crucial, certainly, for the survival of Trump and his business enterprises. Just a quick word before I let you go about the witness list and, a personality or a celebrity known by many South Africans, Ivanka Trump, his daughter, is on one of those, on the witness list. It's yet to be seen whether she'll be called and if she will, agree to appear.
That's right, and it's not just Ivanka Trump, but perhaps the less well-known sons of Don Jr. and Eric Trump. They are also defendants on this trial and will be called as witnesses, we believe. So yes, it's a real Trump family affair, this one. As I say, it's not just him. It's also his children and his business. So it's really getting to Trump where it hurts. His family and his family loyalty is very important to him, as is his real estate empire and his businesses. He talks about being a businessman, and that's part of why he argues he should be elected president, because he knows how to do deals. Well, this trial could undo a lot of that. But on the flip side, he's using it as kind of a campaign talking point, and actually says that it's doing good things for his poll numbers because it's getting his base, his voting base, riled up and angry on his behalf, and perhaps actually increasing his popularity.
Kate Fisher, thank you very much for just shedding more perspective on these legal developments today regarding Donald Trump. She is our news correspondent, joining us live there from Washington, D.C.